Rappa is mid. In this video, I showed that Rappa overkills the Eternal Show in Memory of Chaos by having one extra turn and an ultimate unused. Rappa is only good at pure fiction. In this video, I showed that Rappa was able to get a 3,881 score against Sunday in Apocalyptic Shadow. Rappa is bad at fighting enemies that are not weak to the imaginary element. In this video, I showed that Rappa can beat Hule in Memory of Chaos with only one cycle used. It should be emphasized that Hule is a single target and resists the imaginary element by 20%, which doubles down on the disadvantages Rappa has to face. These are the things I've heard over and over as I worked hard towards mastering Rappa's kit. This isn't anything new. Himeko was deemed as the worst standard 5-star character. Jade is said to have a miserable performance outside of pure fiction. Yet these two are currently dominating endgame content such as Memory of Chaos and Apocalyptic Shadow. What do these characters have in common? They are characters that follow the Erudition path. When I saw Rappa's kit for the first time, I'm honestly confused why people would think that Rappa is a weak character. For me, it totally felt like I'm seeing a character with the potential to rival the strength of Acheron or might end up being stronger. With this in mind, I felt like I had to delay Rappa's guide and study her intensively. If I simply say that Rappa is stronger than Acheron, that's just a mere assumption. I need to prove it first. In this guide, I will share with you all the things I've learned about Rappa. Most importantly, how to maximize her performance and show how she can be extremely competitive with any type of endgame content. If you found the guide helpful, consider liking the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on up-to-date information. I always read everyone's comments, so feel free to ask questions that were not answered in the video. Before I start, here's a gift code for all of you to enjoy. Link will be in the description for your convenience. Without further ado. A peculiar girl who appears in Penacony like a flashbang at the darkest hour of night, identifying herself as a ninja and attributing everything in the world to ninjutsu. As a member of the Galaxy Rangers, she relentlessly pursues the villain known as Evil Ninja Osaru, chasing them to the very edge of the cosmos. Rappa is a 5-star imaginary element character that specializes in dealing massive amounts of super break damage. She follows the Erudition path. Entering battle with Rappa's technique is crucial to her gameplay. For a technique, it currently has the highest toughness damage of 30, regardless of weakness type. To put that into perspective, that is similar to the toughness damage of most single-target ultimates in the game, except it is applied to all enemies. Each enemy would be hit by a blast-type AoE where the main target receives 200% of Rappa's imaginary break damage and 180% to the adjacent targets. Then, Rappa regenerates 10 energy. Once in battle, the idea is to minimize the use of Rappa's basic attack or skill and keep her in the seal form state permanently if possible. To enter the seal form state, Rappa needs to use her ultimate. Her ultimate would immediately grant her an extra action and 3 charges of Chroma Ink. Remember that getting an extra action is not the same as immediately taking action. An extra action does not consume a turn, which means that Rappa won't reduce buff durations when ending her extra action. It also won't affect her current action value, which means that her action value won't reset after using the extra action. Entering the seal form state would disable Rappa's skill and ultimate, while basic attacks will be enhanced. The enhanced basics is composed of 3 separate attacks, 2 blast attacks and 1 true AoE attack. The blast attack deals 10 toughness damage on the main target and 5 on the adjacent targets. The true AoE attack has a base toughness damage of 5 and would further increase through her talent. To simplify things, if Rappa focuses her enhanced basic attacks on one target, she would deal a total of 25 toughness damage. This can ignore enemy weakness, but would be reduced by 50%. After using an enhanced basic attack, Rappa consumes 1 Chroma Ink charge. When all 3 charges are consumed, Rappa exits the seal form state. Now let's talk about how Rappa's talent increases the toughness damage of the 3rd hit of her enhanced basic attack. The reason why I want you to separate her talent's toughness damage from the base toughness damage of her enhanced basic attacks is due to the fact that her talent completely ignores weakness type. This means that even if the enemy is not weak to the imaginary element, the toughness damage coming from Rappa's talent won't be reduced by 50%. It is guaranteed to deal 2 plus the amount of charges Rappa has as toughness damage. For example, let's assume that Rappa has the max amount of talent stacks and is fighting one enemy that is not weak to the imaginary element. The enemy would receive a total of 12.5 toughness damage from her enhanced basic attacks and a guaranteed 12 toughness damage from her talent. Finally, let's talk about Rappa's talent stacks. Rappa gains 1 stack each time an enemy gets weakness broken. This can stack up to 10 times. When the third hit of Rappa's enhanced basic attack hits the enemy, it would deal 60% of Rappa's imaginary break damage, and an additional 50% multiplier for each stack. Therefore, it can deal up to a maximum of 560% of Rappa's imaginary break damage. Stacks are consumed afterwards, regardless if the enemy is in a broken state or not. Aside from that, here are some important things to note. When Rappa enters the seal form state, her weakness break efficiency is increased by 50%. This is additive to other weakness break efficiency boosts. For example, if Rappa is teamed up with Ruin Mei, she gets doubled weakness break efficiency. If Rappa tries to ignore the enemy's weakness, she gets toughness damage reduction on her enhanced basics, which is multiplicative to her final toughness damage. This means that if she is in her buffed state and is fighting an enemy not weak to the imaginary element, she is reducing their toughness at 75% efficiency. Do remember that her talent completely ignores weakness type, so it is only affected by her increased weakness break efficiency. Rappa's A6 trace applies a 2% break damage vulnerability for 2 turns when the target gets their weakness broken. If Rappa's current attack stat is higher than 2400, every 100 excess additionally increases the vulnerability by 1%, up to a maximum of 8%. In short, to cap this trace's effect, Rappa would need 3,200 attack stats, so she would benefit from a 10% break damage vulnerability. Rappa's A4 trace converts the toughness damage dealt by her enhanced basic attacks to 1 instance of 60% super break damage against weakness-broken enemies. This trace together with her talent allows Rappa to deal high amounts of break damage without needing the Harmony Trailblazer. Lastly, Rappa's A2 trace grants 10 energy and an additional talent stack whenever an elite level or higher enemy gets their weakness broken. I'll be skipping both Rappa's light cone and relic section because Rappa has only 3 gear options and 3 light cone options. Regardless, there would still be a final build section. This is simply to save you time. When playing Rappa, it is extremely important to consider bringing teammates that would help reduce the enemy's toughness, even if the enemies are weak to the imaginary element by default. You would not want Rappa to use her talent stacks against enemies that are not weakness broken. If Rappa is trying to reduce the enemy's toughness all by herself, this could explain why your Rappa is underperforming. Here's some clips to help you understand this better. As you can see, Rappa did not need to use her ultimate as soon as it was available. She could simply wait until it is the right moment to deal massive amounts of break damage with the accumulated talent stacks. In Memory of Chaos in particular, this helps her enter the second wave in seal form state with 2 chroma ink charges left. Whether you are using her signature LC or Charmony Fall LC, this will be the ideal case scenario because the next enhanced basic attack would immediately trigger her signature's LC effect. Or Rappa enters the second wave with the speed boost coming from Charmony Fall at maximum efficiency. In my one-cycle Hule Clear, this was taken into account where Rappa was able to trigger her signature LC's effect 3 times within one cycle. Against Eternal Show, this allowed Rappa to zero-cycle with so much excess damage that she cleared the stage with 1 leftover action and ultimate. One might argue that this kind of min-maxing relies a lot on teammates. This might come as a surprise, but HSR heavily relies on team building. I do understand that not everyone has the resources to make this possible every single time. In that case, make it an endgame goal. Luckily, Harmony Trailblazer is free. They could help whoever the other toughness damage dealer is to whittle down the enemy's HP before Rappa finishes them off. When adopting this playstyle, you will need to go for maximum damage per turn. This makes using a break rope much more favorable than using an energy rope. I've yet to find a reason to use an energy rope, even if there are scenarios where it could allow Rappa to have her ultimate ready on her first turn. There's simply no reason to use her ultimate too early, and it would just risk Rappa entering the next wave without her ultimate. So far, the only time I found it useful to have Rappa's ultimate on her first turn is when doing pure fiction. But even then, she doesn't particularly need to use an energy rope. After all, the only way to get her ultimate on her first turn is to use her signature light cone. It allows Rappa to start with 110 energy with her technique. If Ruin Mei is around and is equipped with her signature light cone, that gives an extra 10 energy. If the team could break 2 elites before Rappa takes her turn, then she can have her ultimate ready on her first turn. An alternative to Ruin Mei's signature is the 3-star light cone, Fine Fruit, although it requires the wearer to be an abundance follower. This strategy in particular was shown in my Rappa Pure Fiction Zero Cycle video. Another reason why it is more favorable to maximize Rappa's damage per hit instead of using an energy rope in Pure Fiction is due to the fact that killing the trash mobs in one shot for extra energy is significantly better than relying on an energy rope. The combination of killing trash mobs and breaking elites is more than enough energy for Rappa in Pure Fiction. On Apocalyptic Shadow, there's nothing much to say about Rappa because she is guaranteed to perform extremely well in that mode. After all, Apocalyptic Shadow has always been about breaking the boss as fast as you can to get all the benefits. Rappa's first Eidolon allows all damage dealt by Rappa in seal form state to ignore 15% of the target's defense. If there's no other sources of defense reduction, this translates to an 8.5% overall damage increase. Always remember that defense reductions become more potent as you stack more of it. After Rappa exits the seal form state, she regenerates 20 energy. Using ultimate and 3 enhanced basic attacks guarantees that Rappa exits the seal form state with 65 energy. With this Eidolon, that means she is guaranteed to exit at 85 energy. Rappa's second Eidolon boosts the toughness reduction of the blast attacks of her enhanced basic attack by 50% on the main target. It is specified that this is a toughness reduction increase, which is multiplicative to weakness break efficiency. This means the main target of Rappa's blast attacks can receive up to 22.5 toughness damage. Naturally, this increase in toughness damage would also improve Rappa's super break damage. Rappa's fourth Eidolon increases all allies' speed by 12% while Rappa is in seal form state. A powerful Eidolon if you know how to speed tune. Rappa's final Eidolon allows Rappa to start with 5 talent stacks, and it can now stack up to a maximum of 15. After Rappa launches the third hit of her enhanced basic attack, she gains 5 stacks. This Eidolon guarantees that Rappa would always have an extra 250% multiplier to her talent's break damage. Unfortunately, the stack gain only happens after the talent triggers, which means Rappa would never use the 5 stacks gained to last hit enemies. Rappa's best team would be in the typical Super Break team consisting of Harmony Trailblazer, Ruin Mei, and a sustain that could deal a lot of toughness damage and boost the team's break damage like Lingsha and Gallagher. If the enemies are all weak to imaginary, Aventurine or Luocha are also viable sustains. However, it is worth noting that Nihility characters that could deal a good amount of toughness damage could synergize well with Rappa. After all, Rappa needs help from teammates when it comes to depleting toughness bars. Most notable ones would be Zhao Qiu, Silverwolf, Pella, Luca, and Gwynaphin, since all of them could provide some support to boost the break damage of Rappa. Having another damage dealer as a duo is also viable as long as they could help Rappa with depleting toughness bars. Hunt characters if there's only one enemy. Destruction or Erudition characters if there's multiple enemies. Overall, Rappa is an extremely powerful, super break-oriented damage dealer. Should you try to pull Rappa if you get the chance? Yes. Currently, the only reason I can think of as to why you should skip Rappa is due to the fact that Fugue and Sunday is coming in version 2.7. The main reason to pull for her is due to her position in the current meta. In my opinion, she is basically in the same tier as Acheron, if not the current strongest damage dealer in the game. This wouldn't be a hot take if Rappa is following a different path. But unfortunately, Rappa has to suffer the stigma of being an Erudition character. I'm sure that most of you are aware of the amount of doom posting Rappa has received ever since she got announced. Same for basically any other Erudition character. I mentioned this earlier, but Rappa is really different compared to every other Erudition that has been released. Her kit just seems to be extremely stacked, and I have proven this to be the case through different showcases on different endgame content. Zero cycling in pure fiction and getting an extremely high score in Apocalyptic Shadow could be considered something normal for Rappa, and I can understand the argument that fighting the Eternal Show is very favorable for her. However, Rappa was able to beat Hule in just one cycle without relying on any limited Eidolons, whether it be from herself or her teammates. We're talking about Hule, a boss that is catered to single-target damage-focused characters. Hule, who does not have imaginary weakness but also resists it by 20%. This to me solidifies Rappa's position in the meta. She is extremely competitive in all game modes, and that automatically makes her a very high value pull. And that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one.